To this version of Threat Hunting Thursdays. We are doing some really interesting stuff today. So you might have seen on LinkedIn or X, if you use X, that we announced our partnership with ThreatConnect recently. And so we have this really awesome application that pulls all of our Bayse early alert phishing intelligence directly into ThreatConnect and allows you to visualize it, pivot on a whole bunch of different stuff, and it's really powerful. So I wanted to talk about that today and show how that works. And we'll walk through a handful of different use cases that I think are really cool with that. So I wanted to go ahead and share my screen. And before we get into the ThreatConnect app itself, what I wanted to do first was just show what the data looks like under the hood for this. So this is one of the 40,000 plus different threat feed items that goes into ThreatConnect every day right now. That number varies depending on what we see, how many different attacks we identify, and so on and so forth. But these are the 10 different things that you might find in one of those records. Now we specify them a little bit differently in ThreatConnect because we think it's more valuable for people to be able to pivot on them. So we tag a lot of things. But some of the things that I wanted to highlight here are, so we have things like the brand and the vertical, that numbers 5 and 6 here. So that's really powerful to be able to search for everything targeting Microsoft credentials or everything targeting technology, both of which I think we're going to look at today. Maybe not the technology, but we'll look at something similar with verticals. And then same idea with our site fingerprints, which is kind of Bayse's secret sauce for automatically grouping attacks that otherwise look potentially unrelated, or you would have to go look at them manually to figure that out. We're able to do it automatically. And so that gets pushed into ThreatConnect as well. That's not what I wanted to do. But anyway, we also pull in IP addresses, both IPv4 and IPv6, for any of the things that we saw in our record. And that can include our URL, which is the thing that was submitted in ThreatConnect. We call it the submitted URL, the final URL, which I think we call the phishing portal in ThreatConnect, or the following activity, which I believe right now we call credential collection within ThreatConnect. So each of those, whenever we see them, will resolve their IPs. You know, looking at this example, as an example, docs.google.com, the IPs are going to come back as Google. They're not going to be malicious, but nor is docs.google.com, but this whole URL would, there was additional information in this URL that we kind of redacted for the slide. But anyway, this is one that you would see potentially having more information available that you could go and then dig deeper. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly show that. Let's stop talking about it and actually look at it. So I want to walk through a few different scenarios. So I have my dashboard set up like this in ThreatConnect. So again, we're in ThreatConnect. So if you are a customer of ThreatConnect, you should be able to go ahead and subscribe to the Bayse early alert phishing intelligence feed. I think something along that line is what it's called. It's in the marketplace. You'll be easily able to find it. If not, reach out to me or reach out to somebody within ThreatConnect. And so this is how I have it set up, just a kind of a heads up view of what are the different things that we have going on, what kinds of submitted links, what kinds of attacks are we seeing, who's being targeted, what TLS information do we have, etc., campaigns that are associated with things. This is a really useful heads up display for me. Maybe it works or doesn't work for you. But I wanted to actually dig into a few things specifically that I have highlighted here. So within ThreatConnect, you can do some really powerful things like go into browse and go into indicators, and then you can, or sorry, I should say browse and I believe tags. So let's just pop it open real quick just to make sure I'm not making things up. Yep. Okay. So ThreatConnect itself has tons and tons of different tags that are associated with it and other applications, but they also allow you to search for tags that are associated with things that you have. In this case, we have a bunch of different tags in here. So we have our verticals in here, we have brands in here, we have site fingerprints in here, we have a large number of things that show up here, and that allows you to pivot, group, visualize on that information. So I'm going to go back over to the one that I have ready over here, and this is just looking at results that have the tag financial-services. Financial services, we use the Styx Taxi, or sorry, the Styx v2.1 namespace for all of our tags. I'm not going to try and pull it up right this second, but we use that exact namespace. So you're able to find those and go ahead and look for any of them in the system. If there's anything in there that is tagged with one of those, then you'll be able to find it pretty easily. So we've got this tag, and we can go ahead and pivot on it. So we're going to view the indicators first, and we can see what are some of the associated indicators that are associated with this. I wanted to pick on one that I thought was really interesting to demonstrate a few interesting things. So we have Arvest signon02a.com. Apologies. And so let's go ahead and pivot on that within ThreatConnect. Okay, so we can see that we assigned it a confidence rating of 80, which is probable. We think that it's critical because it's actually affecting somebody who is currently potentially a customer of Arvest, which is a bank, and then additional information. But the interesting stuff that I wanted to highlight here, I wanted to, first of all, just show you here are tags that are associated just with this. So each of these you can pivot on. So phishing portal, you can pivot on that. You can pivot on the fact that we think it's an unidentified bank brand at this level. We actually have more information at a deeper level that we know that it's in financial services. And here are different IPs associated with it. I believe, if I'm not making things up, these are Cloudflare IPs, so they're not super useful for IOCs, but nonetheless, it'll at least show you things that are hosted on Cloudflare, which is a ton of stuff, not very usefully. Anyway, so coming back over here, so we can go to the associations. And what this will show you is a few things. So remember I talked about site fingerprints, and I talk about site fingerprints a lot. That's because they're super, super valuable. It's essentially a way to match websites that look similar or have the same underlying template. And so when you're looking at phishing kits or templates associated with like open directories and stuff like that, we can just automatically group them and be able to find all of the other ones that look similar. This happens automatically within Bayse, and we feed that directly into ThreatConnect, and that's how we automatically create campaigns. We use the structural ID. If you're familiar with the site fingerprints, you can check out our blog at bayse.io/blog, and you'll find out more information there. But we use the structural ID, which is the looking at a page and it looks similar to other ones. We use that to create campaigns. And so if you see unknown campaign followed by a gobbledygook number, or hash, I should say, that is essentially our identifier saying, hey, we don't know exactly, we're not tracking this as an official campaign within Bayse, but we know that this is the identifier for this, and so we're able to automatically collect all the different things that match it. That's why we see a bunch of different indicators below this that are a little bit different. So we have arvestsignon02a.com for the first two, then we have arvestprofile01c.com for the second two, and then we see arvestsignon03c.com for the third two. Now, there could potentially be more that we're not aware of, but if you went and did this analysis and you ran into them and you fed them into Bayse, you would find out very likely that their site fingerprint, again, matches this campaign. That's actually another thing that you can do within Bayse. You can submit things to it and analyze it just like you would with a few other sandbox style URL analyzers. But ours is hooked up to all these different things. So let me double check to make sure that I'm right. I wanted to actually go to this campaign within ThreatConnect, and I'm just going to expand everything here. So again, this is automatically created. No human went and curated this. This automatically happened. What we do is we describe whenever we have the information, which is generally always, how long something's been going on. We're able to use the site fingerprint for that. So we've seen it for a week, or more than a week, I should say. We've seen it 21 times, and we see that they're targeting customers of the brand Arvest Bank. So there we go. We have that specific knowledge there. Just in the last 24 hours, we've only seen one of these destinations. So this has been going on for a little bit of time. Here's a perfect screenshot that shows, clear as day, this is targeting Arvest Bank. And you can come down here and you can see that the tag Arvest Bank is on this. You can go ahead and pivot on that and find more information. But one of the things that I wanted to do, this Threat Hunting Thursdays episode is called Pivoting from ThreatConnect to Bayse, is I actually wanted to pivot into Bayse Investigator and dig deeper. So here we have our link into Bayse Investigator, and we can just go ahead and pivot. So we pivoted in, we see, just as we saw before, 21 times. We've seen it just a little bit longer than a week, 6th through the 15th of January. Today is the 18th. And so we didn't have any IOCs, but we of course had the information that we just showed you from ThreatConnect. So now we can actually look at all of these results and see, what exactly does this look like. So we've got all of these different matches. And I'm just looking at my notes to make sure I cover all the things that I really wanted to highlight. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. So let's pivot into one of these, and hopefully I picked one that's got a nice, pretty screenshot. Yep, cool. So Bayse, under the hood, does an analysis and tries to explain everything that it finds and why it decided different things. So we see, it's related to banking. We think it's targeting Arvest Bank. We have the title in this page. We have, why do we think it's interesting? It's just 3 days old. Collected text and password, which we can see up there, login ID and password. And it sent them to this Arvest profile 01c.com/indexc.php. So, that matches. And then what are some recommended next steps if you're, using this in a SOC kind of workflow? And then, of course, we have our site fingerprints, of which you can pivot on them. One of them, this first one would take us back to where we were a moment ago. The thing that I wanted to highlight here was, if you go back to that site fingerprint, you can see, clear as day, we see Arvest blah, Arvest blah, Arvest blah, over and over again. So one of the things that you can do within Bayse Investigator is you can go search. And for advanced users, which is, you need to be a paying user to be able to do that, you can do something like this. You can look, and let's do last 3 days. So we can do destination contains Arvest, and what this will do is allow us to search across all of the things that we've seen, whether they're destination links, whether they are sites that were submitted, whether they're the phishing portal, etc. It's doing an analysis and finding all of the different things that have existed over time. So we've got a couple of things in here that we want to see. And so what we highlight here is first searched and last searched. So searched, seen, kind of synonymous within Bayse. But what we see here is, we've got a whole bunch of different things. A lot of them are harvest. We could have done a better, more precise regex and found those. And we see a lot of legitimate stuff, because we're not just analyzing malicious things within Bayse, we're analyzing a lot of things. We're collecting information from the internet and doing analysis. So they would very likely be associated with Arvest Bank as a legitimate site. But coming back here, we see that, 2 of these look pretty interesting. Well, 3 of them look pretty interesting, but we're going to pivot on the first 2 for now. So we see RVest safety info, rvestsafety.info, and we see that that first happened or was searched yesterday, and then was last searched today. And then we have d5-rvest.dindns.org, and that was again yesterday to today. A very similar time frame for each of those. So we're going to pivot on each of those. And I wanted to highlight a couple of things. So first, well, this is just a destination page, so we'll see some information about it. When was it first searched? How many times? Are there children or parents associated with it? And then when have we actually analyzed that site and what did we think? And link to dig deeper. And what are the things that we've seen on, or sorry, rather, when have we seen that destination as a link on a site or as a credential collection domain? So in this case, we saw when we analyzed it, it was 0 days old. This one's really interesting. We see that it was actually set up as an open directory at this point. So likely had been taken down. So we see that we're able to automatically identify that. Just to show one of the powerful capabilities of site fingerprints, we knew it was an open directory because this site fingerprint matches an empty open directory, and we can see that there are 14,000 different examples that are have been happening for almost a year. That's when we turned on our site fingerprint capability. Going back to the other one, so this was D5RVest. We've got a handful of analyses. We've got different pages that were analyzed here. One of them went to google.com/search Vanguard login. So, it got kicked out to default. That's one of the anti-analysis capabilities that people will set up on their phishing pages. But let's go ahead and pivot to one of these. And we can see, this definitely does look a little bit different than the other one. Again, we already identified it's associated with Arvest Bank. Sorry, I should say here. Yeah. And we identified the information, and it does look different, right? We have the different pattern. This is using DinDNS instead of an actual top-level domain. So DinDNS is a dynamic DNS provider. We have that information below. I think we actually highlighted in here too. But what that allows you to do is learn a little bit about that. And what we can do here is, first of all, we see the site fingerprints. We'll come back to those in a second. We can see what are all the different links, and you can copy paste really easily within Bayse and search for those. Let's just see if there's anything down here that looks good to highlight. Yeah, we just see, predominantly it looks like they legitimately just copied the site as is. Let's go back up to the site fingerprints and just pivot and see, have we seen this behavior on any other pages? Okay, so we pivoted on the structural ID, and we see that there are actually 35 different examples from June to January. And so recent ones, I don't believe there were any more that were within the last 4 weeks. We don't keep all the history. We keep track that it has been seen before, but we don't necessarily keep all the history. So we see just these two that we saw a minute ago, but that allows us to know, hey, this is actually a framework that's been repeated at least 35 times, very likely across different sites. And so it might be one that we want to keep track of. So for example, if you were Arvest Bank, or you had a client who was Arvest Bank, you might want to start tracking this as a phishing kit that is targeting you. Okay, so I think that one's pretty well covered. Second one I wanted to highlight, I think this one's really powerful. It's actually the basis of the screenshot that I had at the beginning. And what I wanted to do here was highlight using, again, the tag search for Microsoft Corporation. And what we can do here is pivot on that and then see, okay, we've got lots of different things that are associated with Microsoft Corporation, lots of different official campaigns, and then lots of different unknown campaigns. So let's go ahead, and I believe this is what I want to do. Oh, maybe not. There we go. So let me do that again so it's clear. So I went to Microsoft, and then I clicked on the hamburger menu, and then I'm over here. So I'm in the graph view. And what I want to do is make this full screen. So it kind of looks pretty right now. The groups are light green. The indicators, which are URLs, are blue. But we want to do more powerful things here. So let's go over here. And what we want to do is ignore the caution sign, crank those all the way up, and then go down here to the second level associations and go to, I believe it was group to indicator, and then crank this all the way up too. So we're not collecting everything. We're collecting only up to 1,000. But this is kind of a crazy looking graph. But this is essentially saying anything that's connected by a green dot to a bunch of different things means that that's a campaign that was either automatically or through an officially tracked campaign of Bayse's tracked as a campaign. And we'll have that kind of information that we saw a minute ago. So you can see this one, pretty well used. And remember, we have a maximum of 1,000 points, so it's likely that this attack has more connections. But let's go ahead and view the details on this one. So this one's been going on for 8 months. This is one that I think we're officially tracking, right? And then we see, 11,000 times this has been seen, and it's actually associated with AOL, Adobe, generic webmail, and Microsoft. They're each different things that you can use to log into it. Just in the last 24 hours, we see 32 unique destinations. And we can actually open this more fully, I believe, with that button, and we can pivot into Bayse Investigator here. So we see Adobe Document Cloud. Let's pivot into Bayse Investigator. Okay, so we got these different brands, each of which you can pivot into and learn more about different things targeting them. We see the 34, like we said, and let's actually pivot into here and just look at one of these and see what we learn. So just in the last 24 hours of this, we've seen 144 different submitted destinations. And, here are some of those. So this one looks like it's very much taking advantage of workers.dev, all sorts of different ones here. And I wanted to pivot into one of these. Okay, so this is what this one looks like. So remember, structural ID, they don't have to look identical. They have to have the same underlying functionality. So this one, we see this, and we have additional information about the template specifically seen here, which is associated with this campaign. But then let's come down here and look at some of the links associated with it. So you can see iStock photo, pivot on that, you'll find a whole bunch of different things. The thing that I wanted to highlight, though, is we have this random looking web.app link here. And so we're just loading hover.css from it. So I want to pivot on that within Bayse. And we can see that just since this has been tracked, which is just about a year now, we've seen it 395,000 times. So this is being used on a lot of different sites. And it's very likely that if we went and connected all of these sites by that destination, we would have an even bigger graph than what we just looked at a minute ago. So we can see, again, we see the same kind of behavior here. We can go ahead and look at more of them. And yeah, there's just so much information here. So you can dig into all of that. Okay, so that is that view. The last one that I wanted to highlight was we can come to the, this time we're looking at the indicators. So you go to browse indicators. And let me just go back so I don't blow away what I wanted here. So what we have is we're looking for tag credential collection. So that means it's a domain that we see credentials being collected to, or information. Could be more than credentials. And then we're looking for summary, which is just a URL name for us. Summary contains .php, followed by or preceded by anything. What we have here is a whole bunch of different stuff. One of the things that I did was I sorted by the name, if you will, the summary field. So I'm looking for ones that have similar names. And so we can see a bunch of these have IP addresses that are different, and then save to file.php. So when I want to pivot on one of those, and so we can see, there's actually nearly 10,000 different associations with this one. Pretty interesting. And let's see, what did I want to pivot on here? I wanted to pivot. I wanted to go to the campaign. Let's find the campaign. There we go. So we go to associations. We come to unknown campaign. And we can see, I don't remember if this screenshot. Okay, yeah, this is the screenshot that we collected. So we see that it's 5 months, 128,000 times. Facebook is being targeted, users of Facebook in this case. And we're not seeing it at a high volume anymore, but it had been pretty high volume before that. But now we've got this information, so we can see, this looks like, apologies if I'm incorrect, but like Polish or some European language. And so we see what's going on here. It looks pretty suspicious. Now we can actually go pivot in the Bayse Investigator and learn more about it. So again, we see 128,000 times. We've seen it as recently as today. And just looking at this, you can see what are the destinations that were submitted and then visited. Same for both in these cases. But what we see is we see word-word.pl, word-word.pl. And it looks like there's a theme, autocomus. I think I looked this up before. I think it means garage or something like auto garage. Comus, I think is, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, means garage in this language. And then we see cars. So we're just seeing over and over again this kind of behavior where we see these names. The last thing that I wanted to do here was just, I think I wanted to pivot into one of these, and we'll see. Okay, so this is one. Again, it looks very, very much the same. And again, if you think about some of the values of having the hunting pivot capability, if you want to close a ticket, you want to explain why something's bad, we give you that information. So, this was 0 days old when we saw it, and it collected text and password, which we can see, and sent it to the save to file.php. You saw that save to file.php was used in a number of different attacks that look the same. They're all targeting Facebook. They all seem to be Polish in language. And you can see additional information that we collect here. And then you can look at any of these different links and dig deeper and learn more about them. But I think that's a pretty good high-level view. I think these are really useful capabilities. And I know when I first got to play with the ThreatConnect system, I was super impressed with the way it could visualize all the data that I knew in my head could be visualized immensely. I just, didn't have the capabilities to do that within the system that I had access to. And I thought, wouldn't this be wonderful to push into systems where everybody controls all of their threat intelligence data and then connect that data to other sources. So that's why we chose to work with ThreatConnect and some other tips that'll be publicly announced soon. But this is what I wanted to highlight here, and I hope that this is really useful. If you haven't yet reached out to somebody at either Bayse or at ThreatConnect, if you're a ThreatConnect customer, please do. This information is super, super valuable, and there's just so much information to dig into. And for users that sign up for our threat intelligence feed through ThreatConnect, what we'll do is actually throw in a a Bayse Investigator account for free. So you'll be able to do all this pivoting completely free, in addition to having access to the threat intelligence feed through ThreatConnect. Okay, well, I hope that this was useful. Please reach out if you have any questions, and otherwise enjoy your day and happy hunting.